I would like to know if he would do whatever it takes to win the Olympia title, even if that means shortening his lifespan by a decade or more. I wanted to get into some questions that I just screenshotted a few that people had asked. Let's see if I can specifically get this. Some specific questions. Jacob Shelby wrote, do recent bodybuilding deaths worry you to any degree? What processes or things do you undergo in order to stay healthy? That's the number one question that people wanted to know.
Yeah, of course it's scary. You know, people are dying in the sport that I do. You know, of course it's scary. And yeah, I take as much health supplements as I can. You know, I take some type of liver product, a kidney product, a cholesterol product, a blood pressure product. I like to take turmeric, my omegas. I have like a line of shit that I take every day, multiple times throughout the day.
And we mentioned earlier the blood work, the getting tested, the calcium score. I mean, you're being proactive. So really, I mean, you're doing everything that you can. I don't know if you knew this, but Larry Wheels just released My Heart After 10 Years of Abuse. He had posted the video yesterday, and he did an echocardiogram, and it came back that he's like really healthy, like nothing was wrong except for an enlarged heart. And he said, that's no big deal because I work out. And I was thinking, I don't know, a large heart can in fact be bad. It can come from PD use. And another thing is that echocardiogram, it doesn't necessarily detect everything. So like, I would hate to think that somebody gets like one test done and they think, oh, I've been abusing PDs for say 5 years. They get one test done and the doctor says it's good, because like my father literally had an echocardiogram and they said you had the heart of a person half your age in his 30s. He had a heart attack a year later, survived after 20 minutes of being out 20 minutes, and they revived him. Lucky, but he went into this, he would have thought my heart is of a 30-something-year-old, no reason to think it. And so just because you get the testing done, it doesn't kind of give you a pass, because like, I'm just scared that some people will get a test done and it'll come back healthy. Like for me, I get my blood work done and my blood work is amazing, but how do I know? I don't have the calcium score. You do, I don't. So how do I know that I've used PEDs for over 10 years? So how do I know that I'm healthy? Like I'm doing all the cardio, I'm eating healthy. So I'm doing everything I can, but there's still that chance. And so, anyone that's thinking about using PEDs or using them, think again, like really think about it. Like, do you really want to weigh the pros and the cons, ask your doctor, be proactive. So just want to point that out.
Yeah, no, I think that's very important. And I do think it's important to get every test done. Like you said, just getting an echo done is beneficial, but it doesn't tell the whole story. I think an EKG should be done, getting your calcium score should be done, blood work, echo, all should be done. And even then, like when my calcium score came back 0, that was like a huge sense of relief for me. I was like, thank God. But that doesn't mean, okay, let's, put the gas, to the pedal here and blah. No, we're good. Let's keep doing what we're doing and keep an eye, keep playing the safe game. And some people, that I had comments when I posted that. They were like, oh, looks like he's going to blast his shit. It's like, no, man, like this, I'm just showing I'm somewhat healthy here. I'm good to go. Just going to keep doing what I do.
Yeah, you're just being transparent. And I think making those posts is helpful, because other people will say, well, look, Nick is getting that test done. I might get that test done too. We had Antoine Vaillant get the test done and he was at the 99th percentile. His was through the roof. And so the doctor's warning you, and you got to think, okay, is it really worth it? And honestly, at that point, if you still chose to do it, you've been given the evidence, and if what you choose to do with it is on you. I mean, to me, we all have the right to do whatever we want. Not everyone uses PDs. Some people get drunk every night. Some people do rec drugs every day. It depends. Like we all do certain things. Smoke cigarettes. We have a choice. We live one life on this earth. How you choose to use it is on you.
I agree 100%.
Ryan R., he's known for his conditioning. How lean does he stay in the off season?
I like to stay, I don't like to stay overly lean. Obviously, I don't think being, stage lean or even, 3 weeks out lean is healthy. But again, like we talked about earlier, I like to look like a bodybuilder still in the off season, just bigger.
Yeah. And so you mentioned earlier 10 to 12%. To me, that's really good guest posing shape. I mean, you could certainly walk out and look phenomenal. And how long does it take, just so the average person would know, how long does it take to go from current conditioning now to, let's say they said, I don't know, Arnold Schwarzenegger said, there's a contest. It's going to be in 3 months from now, and the top 10 each get $10 million. You're probably going to enter. Could you be in shape in 12 weeks at your peak? Like, could you, or would it take 8? Like, how far out are you from I'm ready to compete at the Olympia for $1 million?
I do, like right now, I could probably do a 12-week prep and be peak, right? But I prefer longer preps. I actually like to do like a 20-week prep.
Right. So the slower, the better for you. Slowly lose the weight. Don't rush anything, because the greater the calorie deficit, the more you feel like shit. And I've coached a lot of people, and they'd hire me and they show me their photos. I'm like, you're 30% fat. You got 16 weeks. Okay, we're gonna have to, you have to eat 1,500 calories, and they do it, and they do crazy amounts of cardio, but it's like, it's just a nightmare, not worth it. And so, I mean, you could probably get in shape in 8 weeks if you had to do extra cardio, but you just don't want to.
Yeah, I like to do slow and steady. And I'm sure you would agree, the closer you get to a show, you want to be able to pull back. You want to do less cardio. You want to let the body recover and look fresh on stage instead of hammering it going into the show.
And yeah, and for the most part, I find people have to panic at the end. It's rare that I can coach somebody and say, wow, let's add some more food. Ian Valera was probably one of the only ones that, and Joe Alves, these are about the only 2 guys that coach that got pro cards that I was like, holy shit, you look so freaking lean that like it's 6 weeks out for, it's like, wow. Most people, it's like, oh, I'm going to have to tell them, you got to do more cardio, new cardio. And it's, so everyone's kind of like slowly losing the weight. Then it's like a month out and it kind of shit hits the fan. Or like, you actually need to do something. It's a month out. Yeah. You don't ever want to see that. And so you're the opposite. You got like great conditioning going in. It's going to be a breeze, and then you can kind of de-stress, lower cortisol, and so on.
Exactly. I like to be ready a good 2 to 3 weeks out.
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, for myself, I try to think whatever I think is ready, I need 2 to 3 more weeks of dieting, because I find that when I'm dieting, there's always more fat you can lose. Like if you're chasing 4% versus 5, like there's from 6 to 5, 5 to 4, 4 to under, like the difference in conditioning is mind blowing. And so a lot of people, I find they compete, I'll call it soft. I mean, they look good, but like, I'm thinking, wow, if they had 3 more weeks to diet, they would really nail it. So most people I find are a little bit off, and you're known for your conditioning. For me, I was the same way. I was always one of the most conditioned guys. So I really think that comes from being fairly lean in the off season. You're 10 to 12% now. That to me is really lean. I would have been the same way. That way, when you diet down, you're going to retain more muscle. It's easier. You don't have to go crazy on the cardio. You can eat a bit more food. I never cut really below 2,500 to 3,000 on my own preps. And I'm not a big guy, relatively speaking, but I could eat that much because I didn't have that much to lose.
I just think it's a healthier way to prep too. Like it just makes things go very smooth, no bumps in the road. And it's just easier.
Absolutely. Yulian Ivanov, I would like to know if he would do whatever it takes to win the Olympia title, even if that means shortening his lifespan by a decade or more. Would it be worth it to him? I think that's a great question, because they used to ask people, if you could swallow this pill and it shortened your life by 10 years, but you'd win an Olympic gold medal, would you do it? And I think it was like 95% said yes. So I guess that's the same question to you. If you could swallow the magic pill that guarantees you could win the Olympia, would you take it to erase 10 years off your life?
So if you asked me this question when I was 18, 19, 20, I would say, fuck yeah. Now, probably not. As much as obviously my goal is now to win Olympia, but getting older, I say like I'm old, I'm only 27, but you get more mature, you get wiser, and you realize just how precious life really is. And you want to explore and actually have a life. And so, if you ask me this now or even when I was 30, I'm going to say no.
Yeah. And I like that you say, like, I'm acting like I'm old, but you're older and wiser than you were at 18. And I remember being 18, I would have swallowed that pill all day long. I would have taken time. I would have probably taken multiple of them, 20, 30. I live to be 50 and I win all the medals, I'm doing it. Then I got into my 20s. I was like, into 30s, now 40s. And it's only been with all the recent deaths in bodybuilding that have gotten me to say, no, I'm not going to do any cycles anymore. The last cycle I did was just over 3 years ago for my last show. And it was maybe a quarter as big as when I was like, open, because when you're a bodybuilder and you have no weight cap, I had to get as big as possible. Now I competed in the 212, but I wasn't near that weight limit. So I was trying to get as big as possible. Yeah. Once I did classic, I could only weigh 185. I'm like, well, I can't take hardly anything because I won't make the weight. And so, I almost passed out weighing in, trying to make 185. I lost whatever, 10, 12 pounds in a day to cut weight, tons of diuretics, the whole thing to make that weight class. And so, I was 195 this morning and I'm on HRT 100 milligrams every 5 days. So 140 a week and that's it. And so I would like to compete again, but I'm not going to do cycles. And so how am I going to win? Or do well at all? I can't really. So if there is in fact a natural event like if I could actually compete that way, perhaps they allow HRT, I don't know, but I would certainly want to do that. And so as you get older, you just see the reason, like as you get older, you question, well, why did I take those things? Like some of those doses of trend that I took in the past and some of the cycles, I'm like, it was so stupid. Like certainly regret it. Looking back, I can't say that if I rewound time, I would never have done a cycle. I can't say that because I don't know, but yeah. I certainly had some crazy doses that I would have regretted doing now that I'm 46, that at 36, I would have been like, I'm full in, I'm doing everything.
Yeah, and it's like the older you get, what if you want to, you don't want children, right? And then
personally, I don't, but like even if I did,
for example, yeah, it's like now your life shortened, and now God knows when, but now this kid's got to grow up without a father. There's certain things you begin to really look at that you wouldn't look at as if you were like 18, 19 years old. I don't know if I'm gonna have kids. I don't really know if I want kids yet. But if it just happens, it's like my life's changed now. I have to now think of what's going to benefit, my child in the long run.
Yeah, I've always been able to live selfishly. All I have is pets. I really could take anything and do anything. And it's like, what am I doing? It's all to myself. It's not anyone else. But if you have kids, that really comes into question. Am I doing the right thing? And anyone that hasn't watched Seth Feroci's video, like Sarah's going to kill you, basically. He says, like, I went to the doctor and they said, you keep doing this, you got 10, 15 years. That's it. And so it's like, do you want that? And he's like, he's got kids. So he stopped. He's on HRT. He said he went from 245-ish or so to 208, maybe something like that. But he's ripped. He's got a ton of muscle. He's only like our height. And he does cardio and he's a machine. And he's like, I'm happier than I ever was. So you think at the time that all that muscle was needed. But then when you lose it, you don't feel any different. Like, I went from being 230 plus, now I'm like 195. So I've lost a lot of muscle, but I'm leaner, but I have better cardio. I'm more fit. I'm certainly as happy as ever was. So you look at me and I don't have the big muscles I had, but I still feel good. And so I'm like, so what's the point? Like, I'm not competing. I'm never going to be in the Olympia. So it doesn't make sense for me to do that.
No, it's true. Like, I know being 290 and I say like, this is the best I've ever felt at this weight, but I know if I was 240, I would probably be a lot happier and feel more lively than I do now.
Yeah. And so bodybuilding, it has that addictive nature because we're always trying to improve. You get dopamine every time you get stronger, bigger, the dopamine. So we have somebody like Antoine Vaillant, who's been over 300 pounds and had that really poor result. And he's trying to, fix up his health. And I don't think he wants to downsize that much. He's been a bodybuilder. That's been his thing for his whole life. And to just say, I'm going to go natural and go from say 300 pounds to 220. It's a lot to take in. And so for bodybuilders, one of the hardest things, and I mean, you're still young. One of the hardest things is when bodybuilding is done, perhaps you want to compete 5 years, 10 years, but eventually you stop. And then you have to transition from being, like we talked with Ronnie Coleman in the elevator, and I'm sure you are, you have to go from being that holy wow, that the guy that everyone's going to look at in the gym to just being a guy. Maybe not, you'll probably still have enough muscle, even natural, that you'd still be a freak. But for most people, like, we stop bodybuilding, you lose all that muscle, and it is hard to accept.
It is, I know that's going to happen to me. And I know with my mindset, that's going to be a really hard time for me to accept. But I also know it's going to be needed. Like it's going to happen, and it has to happen, especially when I'm done, competing. There's no way, like, and I personally don't even want to be, this big for the rest of my life. It's not needed.